On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, Iceland's Pirate Party triples their number of government seats, and the latest version of Bitcoin Core is released with the new SegWit code. Dash is the privacy-focused digital currency that offers transactions with instant confirmations. Its unique decentralized decision-making and self-funding system make it an ideal choice as a stable and secure digital cash. Click the link in the video description to learn more. Hi there guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. So let's get into today's news. The first of two stories today comes from the BBC. And this article is entitled Iceland's Election, the Pirate Party Triples Seats. So here it says, Iceland's Pirate Party has tripled its seats in the 63-seat parliament according to election results. So long story short, the Pirate Party didn't win the ruling party, but they did triple the number of seats that they hold in the parliament. And then the article goes on to say the governing Progressive Party lost more than half of their seats in the poll triggered by the resignation of the Prime Minister. Now this is talking about the previous Prime Minister called Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson. So Sigmundur stepped down in April in the wake of the leaked Panama Papers, which revealed the offshore assets of high-profile figures. And then it says that the current Prime Minister, Sigurdur Ingi Johannsson, resigned on Sunday. So the previous Prime Minister, sounds like the Panama Papers did a lot of damage, and now the current Prime Minister has resigned, so I guess they just couldn't stomach losing so many seats. So moving on here to the green bit, I don't want to spend too much on this, it was just a quick update about this story. The bit in green says that the Pirate Party founder and MP, Birgitta Jónsdóttir, said that she was very satisfied with the result. So it's definitely progress for them. They've gained an influence, so maybe they'll be able to push their agenda to get it implemented now. And then this bit in blue says the party calls for more political and transparency and accountability, free healthcare, closing of tax loopholes, and more protection of citizens' data. On this point, I saw a little bit of a contradiction here. They want to close tax loopholes, but are also supporters of cryptocurrency. So the only way I can see to reconcile that would be to allow people to pay their taxes using cryptocurrency. Because otherwise, how else are they going to handle it? If you've got your own ideas on that, let me know in the comments below. And let's move on to this purple bit, which is the final bit of the article. It says, opponents, however, say the Pirate Party's lack of political experience could scare off investors and destabilize Iceland's recovering economy. Now, I felt a little bit annoyed by that because I thought, so what if it scares off investors? And I'm sick of this attitude where we are encouraged to grovel in front of those who have great amounts of wealth, as if their approval must be earned or something. I'd suggest whoever wrote this article is ignorant because they've missed something obvious, which is the fact that investors in cryptocurrency companies are actually more likely to invest in a country that makes Bitcoin legal tender. And on a more abstract level, I would argue that any transformation process has a period of instability in it. The old cliche, if you look at the transformation process of caterpillar to butterfly, while the caterpillar is in the cocoon, you could say that that's unstable, right? Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar actually dissolves, and there is actually neither a butterfly nor a caterpillar in the cocoon. It's just this genetic goo that's somehow neither a butterfly nor a caterpillar. So that's kind of a principle in nature about if you go from one state to another, there is a state of transformation where you could call it unstable. That's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a recognition of how the process works. It's just simply our need to control everything that makes people scared of instability, which is temporary anyway. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about this. I did a story on it the other day. Now the election's finished. Wanted to do a quick update. So that's all for now. Let's move on to the next article. So for this next article, let's turn to bitcoin.com. This article is entitled Bitcoin Core 0.13.1 enables SegWit to ease block sizes. So before we go through this one, I'll remind you that bitcoin.com was founded by Roger Ver, who holds particular beliefs about how to increase the capacity of the Bitcoin network. And Roger is very much in support of bigger blocks. So I'm sure his writers are too. So I'm just bearing that in mind, as this article may have a bit of bias in that area. I hope not, but let's see. Let's begin. It says, amid a spike in transactions and price hike, the Bitcoin Core team has released its new version of the Bitcoin software. Notably, this release is the first to implement segregated witness transactions in the Bitcoin protocol. While controversial, SegWit is one step towards freeing up a degree of block space. Look, never take anything at face value. That would be one thing I would say. If you ever hear that the Bitcoin network is slowing down, or if you yourself ever experience a transaction taking its sweet time, then what I would do is go here and check for yourself. This is blockchain.info/unconfirmed-transactions. And this will give you a live, up-to-the-minute status report of how many transactions are currently waiting to confirm. Now, bearing in mind the current block size is 1 megabyte or 1,000 kilobytes, you'll see here, if you're looking at this on YouTube, that there are currently 4,400 kilobytes worth of transactions that are unconfirmed and that are waiting to be confirmed, right? So 4,400. And since it takes 10 minutes to mine a block, it's going to take, 40 minutes to clear this backlog. Because every 10 minutes, 1,000 of those kilobytes are going to be taken and put into a block. But of course, new transactions are coming in all the time, right? And which of those transactions makes it into the next block and gets confirmed is up to the miner that wins the block, that actually mines the next block. So they could choose just to skim all of the transactions that are paying the most fees and include those in the block, right? But they can do that, but they would also have to, mine the next block in order to get it accepted. If someone else or another miner wins the block, they might just mine the transactions in order. So that like first come, first serve, no matter what the transaction fee was. So when you send a Bitcoin transaction, if you include a higher fee, it increases the chance that you'll get included in a block sooner rather than later, but it's not actually guaranteed because it's up to the miner that wins the block when your transaction goes in. You know what I mean? So right now we've got 6,600 unconfirmed transactions. That's not a lot, really. When there are those points where there's a big spike in transactions, when it gets up to maybe 10, 15,000 unconfirmed transactions and 20,000, that's the point where you start hearing reports and people complaining that, the network is having a problem. But like I say, it's less about the number of transactions and more about the total size that's waiting to be confirmed, because that's really the key. When we talk about block size, it's the actual size of the file of the block itself that we are talking about. So with the current 1 megabyte block, 4 megabytes worth of transactions waiting to be confirmed. That's 4 lots of 10 minutes, right? So let's go back to the article. Let's move on to the orange bit. It says Bitcoin has suffered full blocks and backlogs intermittently over the last year, with a recent spike in the last several days. While resolved for now, the slowdown in transaction confirmations understandably upsets many people trying to move Bitcoins around. No matter what side of the block size debate you're on, Bitcoin's ability to scale is paramount. Now, there's usually a spike. This is me talking now, guys. There's usually a spike when the price shoots up as people panic buy, usually. And it says here that Bitcoin's ability to scale is paramount. But there, I feel the need to point out that scaling is a process rather than a project that needs to be completed. So if we change that word scaling to capacity, I think it's more accurate. So there's an old saying that says a project expands to the resources available. So I've said this before, but every time the capacity of the Bitcoin network increases, that capacity will soon be filled by new innovations, which puts us right back in the same place, where we have to come up with another way of increasing the capacity even further. And on it goes, right? Now, I'm sorry, but I can't help but think about Dash at this point, because Dash, this is a complete non-issue in the Dash network, because the network is structured in such a way that it can expand and contract its capacity almost effortlessly, and that's due to the economic incentives that are at play. Now, I don't want to make this episode about Dash, so if what I just said piqued your interest, go look into Dash masternodes. But for now, let's stick with the new version of the Bitcoin software. So moving on here to this section that's called SegWit's attempt to solve the block size issue. Well, again, it won't solve it. It'll just increase the capacity for a time until that capacity gets filled. But the article itself says, SegWit will not activate until November the 15th at the soonest, when signaling will begin. SegWit requires 95% of miners to use Bitcoin Core or a compliant client. So it just has to be an implementation of the Bitcoin software that includes this SegWit code. The article then says, however, there's also a well-documented rift between miners and the core developers. Currently, the 0.13.1 core client runs on just over 8% of the nodes on the network. Other parts of SegWit's soft fork address issues such as transaction malleability, increased security for multisig, script versioning, and linear scaling of sig hash operations. Now, I can't claim to know what all that means. I know what some of it means, but for now, we're just talking about the scaling increase, or rather, the capacity increase. So this number, I would say this is quick. There's obviously some diligent folks out there who have already installed this new version. It's not been out that long, only a couple of days, and 8% of the nodes are already running it. And with regards to that set of features that I just talked about, one of the important ones is the fix for transaction malleability. It's not important what it is, but that fix is required for the Lightning Network to function. And again, the Lightning Network is yet another innovation that will assist in increasing the capacity of the network without actually increasing the block size. So moving on here, there's the final section in this article is called New Protocols Potential Roadblocks. In this bit I've highlighted says, SegWit may have a tough time reaching 95% of nodes, miners, and pools. This is because currently there are many who are unhappy with the base block size not being raised as well. Well, I think that would be very unwise. I mean, introducing a new feature like SegWit and increasing the block size at the same time, absolutely not. I would say there's way too much at stake to implement such significant changes at the same time. Now, it's good that this is a soft fork, in my opinion. This soft fork approach, because it allows for a gradual transition. I mean, now the software is released, the next project is actually to persuade 95% of the nodes to install it. And I think this is better because it has to be done by seduction rather than by force. I mean, a hard fork uses force because it says, right, everyone needs to be running this version of the software by this time, and if you're not, you won't be part of the network anymore. And that's exactly what led to the two Ethereums, or the two versions of the Ethereum network, both of which are still going. Can you believe it? So thanks for tuning in today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. Or even consider supporting me directly by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and sending me a Bitcoin tip to the address on that page. If you would like to support me without actually spending any money, then click on the Steam It logo, vote for this episode on the Steam network. That will get me some cryptocurrency without you having to spend a penny. If you're the kind of person that prefers something physical in exchange for your donation, then click on the store button and that will take you through to the Cryptoversity store, where you'll be able to buy yourself a t-shirt that has the Cryptoversity branding on it. That kind of thing helps me out a lot. Or if you would like more structured information on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains, head over to the courses section and buy yourself an online course. That's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. And until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.